Good to see you at the demo again.
Hi.
No, I'm worried about being arrested possibly at some point because of what I'm just covering the arrests and stuff. There's so many of them. What do you think about this? Are you intimidated by this? Are you scared at all of being arrested or having your phones and laptops taken up by the police?
I'm not scared of being arrested on the demonstration, but you're right to be worried. There is an increasing harassment by activists and of journalists, where they doing two things on a fishing exercise. So they arrest people under the Terrorism Act, and then they take their phones and their computers, and then they get a whole lot of data. And the other thing is that it's quite intimidating, and it makes journalists, well, the idea is to shut journalists up, and that is very worrying, and that is developing at a pace, and we need to resist that. I personally
you've said things in public that could possibly be twisted around and made into saying something that it isn't saying, because we've seen that with other people, that they say he said this but he never said it in the context they're saying it in. I mean, that sort of thing. You're quite outspoken and you speak in public. You must be worried sometimes that people could record you and misconstrue you.
Yes, you're quite right. I have been.
I mean, I could be doing it now, couldn't I?
You could be, yeah. You're quite right. I was pulled up by the journalists.
I didn't know this had happened to you. I'm not saying it.
Well, you guessed right. Pulled up by journalists harping on the JC.
Oh.
When I had a earlier POC demo some years ago now, called out the Zionist Federation for demonstrating on the streets alongside the far right, and they tried to get me in court on that, but I was fairly well documented. I documented my evidence, and they failed to put me in court. Yeah, you're right. It does happen.
I mean, people are losing their work, their jobs, because they're being doxxed, and this thing is appalling. I mean, there's people who've been contacting me saying they think they're going to lose their job because this guy on Twitter, Nasser Jew, identified them and said contacted their work and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, my advice to people who are at risk of losing their jobs is really, particularly to be in a union and to go to an industrial tribunal, because the evidence in law doesn't stack up unless they're being convicted of under the Terrorism Act. That's more difficult. But if they're being attacked for anti-Semitism, and the grounds for that attack is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, that won't stand up in court at all. And there have been some industrial tribunals where people have won their cases there. Terrorism Act is more difficult, but what's largely happening is that people are getting intimidated by the police using this act, but when it gets to court, well, actually it rarely gets to court. We'll see what happens with Tony Greenstein, because he's in court fairly soon under this legislation. My guess is that he will get off, but if he doesn't, you're right, he's facing 40 years.
I mean, Sarah Wilkinson's situation, I mean, that's like the most horrific. I mean, Haim Bashir a couple of weeks ago, these stories are just horrific, and make me think, God, could I hack it? I mean, Haim Bashir's 79, he managed to stay the night in the cell. I mean, I'm thinking, how could I cope without my phone and a cup of tea or whatever it is? It's quite an eye-opener for someone who's just interested in supporting Jeremy Corbyn to now be kind of like worried about being arrested and jailed for 14 years. How have we got to this stage?
Well, it's not new. So my partner standing here next to me a few moments ago. She was put in jail in Israel for a week, long time ago, in the winter, only bars on the windows, no glass, freezing cold, inedible food, and told that no one knew she was there. I was arrested when I was the captain of the Jewish boat to Gaza in 2010, and they arrested us at sea in international waters like pirates, and they forcefully took us into Israel and put me in prison overnight. Nothing to eat for 24 hours, nothing to drink. But I was lucky, they treated us well, otherwise didn't physically abuse us, because we were all Jews, all on foreign passports, and it would have made a rather bad news story for them. And that was just after the Mavi Marmara, where they got a very bad publicity out of that, where they shot up and killed 9 people on a Turkish aid boat going into Gaza in 2010. So and some people on our boat, the 2 Israelis on board, the refuseniks, they tried to kill them. They shot one with a taser gun, put it right on his heart, and pulled the trigger. And the other one, his brother, they put pressure on they bag-tied his arms behind his back, and then put him in their boat, and pushed their thumb on his artery on his neck, stopped the blood to his brain. He survived, luckily.
So you're pretty battle hardened on this. I mean, I'm coming in. You've already been inside for a bit.
Yeah, but I have to say, I don't do things that I can avoid that would get me banged up. But you have to take these risks. Where I didn't think, as an 81-year-old Jew, I never thought that I would live to see the resurgence of fascism being led by a Jewish country leading Europe to the far right. I didn't think I'd see that day. It's horrendous. And we have to do what we can to fight that.
I'm just really interested, because I'm a bit worried that I might get arrested at some point for reporting on what's going on in Gaza, and also on reporting about journalists who've been arrested itself. What's your view on all these arrests that are going on, people being raided by the police, having their equipment taken, their phones? Are you at all intimidated by this yourself?
Not personally, because I'm not very prominent, but what is intimidating me is the fact that I go on every Friday evening to Swiss Cottage, to Hotoveli, who's the Israeli ambassador, right near there, and we go every week for a picket outside or very near her house, and it's feeling more and more intimidating. There's more and more police. This Friday, there were the police standing by the Swiss Cottage tube entrance. There were the police standing by the entrance to the picket. They were filming us. They were filming every single thing that everybody said, and everybody
The police were filming you?
The police were filming, as far as we know, because the Zionists used to demonstrate and they've stopped coming, but we do know that there are some still there and that they are filming too. And it's very frightening. It feels intimidating. It feels frightening to me as someone who's not used to this. But the people, I mean, you did something on the fact that they arrested Chaim Rashid about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And last night they didn't arrest anybody, but it didn't feel very comfortable. And when we went today to our meeting place for the Jewish bloc that always meets tomorrow, the police also said that there's a new order, I don't know what it is it 12 or 42 or one of these sections, which said that we could not gather in Grosvenor Square. And they were coming round to people and telling people to move off from where you always gather to join the main march. And that felt very intimidating too. And what happened is people moved off and then we joined the main march. But latecomers couldn't find us. And we had, I've met up with some of them now.
I'm wondering what other people feel. Are you worried about being arrested? Are you worried about being doxxed, your job, being threatened? Are you worried about anything like that?
To be honest, I think we all have to take a position on this, and I think we have to make those sacrifices. But of course, we're deeply worried that there is that the law enforcement agencies have a very different agenda, and we're here in a very peaceful way to speak out on genocide. And I don't want to be silent, and I don't want to be complicit by my country funding the genocide that's going on in Palestine. And of course, we're very supportive of people like yourself who are, raising the profile of what's going on within the Palestinian occupied territories. This is injustice that's been going on for 8 decades, and the genocide that we're seeing now is the worst in any campaign against any indigenous people. And I think once the bombing stops, we'll know the true impact with regards to devastation to Palestinians. And I think we're talking about up to 1 million people who probably have perished through this mass extermination that has taken place in this. So it's incumbent that we all speak out. Really, hats off to your channel. We really support people like yourself, and we mustn't stay silent. And no matter how many of us get locked up, we can't be silent on this really travesty of justice. And as we saw with the campaigns against, whether it was the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, where hundreds of people were locked up, eventually, justice will prevail, and we're on the right side of history. And our conscience is clear, that we want to ensure that the propaganda that's been portrayed through the mainstream media, that social media channels like yourselves, are bringing the reality, the truth. And unfortunately, mainstream media has got a very different agenda, an agenda which is protecting really Israel, protecting the British government, and it's in complicity in terms of arming the genocide that's going on, and it's got to stop. So thank you. Continue the hard work.
Oh, thank you. I didn't expect that. Cheers. Thank you. Celtic. Right. Okay. Well, I like Celtic. If I was in Glasgow, I'd either be Celtic or Partick. I mean, I'd probably be Partick because I support Fulham, so it's kind of like a non-glamour sort of team. But look, I'm just really interested. I'm a bit worried about getting arrested. People think I'm a bit over talking up too much about this, but there were people I'm seeing being arrested that I know, and having their phones taken, their laptops taken. They're being raided at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. There's people being doxxed. They're being photographed. Their employers are being told they're anti-Semitic. They're on this demo. They're saying this and they're saying that. What's your take on it? Are you worried about this yourself?
Look, I think when you're on the right side and you're going against the mainstream message, there is a threat of that. There is a risk of that. What you're doing is incredible. You've got to keep doing it. I mean, what we're seeing here is relentlessness, and we've got to keep doing it. As the pro-Israeli side cannot accept what's going on in here, what's going on in this crowd, what's going on for the last 12 or 13 months, where we have carried on relentlessly pushing the message home that what's happening in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people is not just illegal, it's not just a crime, it is something that we will need to bring justice to when this is gone, when this is finished. Great thing about what you're doing is that if you're a journalist and you're bringing this story to people, then how can anybody be stopping your speech, stopping your work, unless there's something to fear? And what you're I think what you're doing, and what many of us who are working for this cause are doing, is bringing the truth to light, and that's why unfortunately that's why they're after you. And I would say you've got to keep going. We're right behind you. The reason I'm on camera right now is because we want to show, everybody here wants to show you that people are behind you, behind the work that you're doing. How many foreign journalists are in Gaza right now? There's none. There's no foreign journalists in Gaza right now. Why? Because the truth is too much for the pro-Israeli side to take. So whatever journalism is happening about this story, on this story, has got to keep happening. We've got to be relentless about this. Well done for doing what you're doing.
And you're not concerned yourself about your job, your family, falling out, anything like that? Are you?
So my concern pales into insignificance compared to what the Palestinians are going through. Whether it's on the West Bank, or whether it's in Gaza, or whether it's in East Jerusalem, or whether it's in Jerusalem proper. What's happening to the Palestinians right now is heinous. So let's take, for instance, the idea, not just the idea, the truth that kids are being shot in the head and kids are being shot in the chest. This is something that Norman Finkelstein brought to light in his recent interview with Piers Morgan. Kids are being shot in the head, kids are being shot in the chest. So my concern for my career is insignificant, completely insignificant. And what I can see what you're doing is bringing concern to the people who are pro-Israel. It's bringing concern to them. It's worrying them, and that's great. That's exactly what we should be doing. When this is all done, when this is all said and done, we will have to live with ourselves. When this is all said and done, we will have to live with ourselves. And personally, I don't think I'm doing enough. We're not doing enough.
So I'm just wondering, am I nuts, or is anyone else worried about the attacks on free speech, especially regarding speaking up for Palestine?
I think all of us are a bit worried about that, but the thing is that we have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing what we believe in, because otherwise they're gonna keep weaponizing this narrative and making us the one who are bad. So we need to keep pushing for the truth. That's all we can do. And I think it's really important to keep doing what we do, even though the oppression is there and it's quite strong. We have to keep pushing.
How long have you been coming on these demos?
About a year now.
Since it started, since October?
Yeah, more or less, yes.
And were you political before? Were you?
Yeah, I've always been very political. I've always been on the side of the oppressed, so to speak. But obviously after what we've seen the last year, just like impossible to really stay home and not coming out.
And you haven't given up? You're not tired out by it? You're still fighting?
Well, I am tired. I mean, not tired of protesting. I'm pretty exhausted by the fact that after 14 months, we can't even get a ceasefire. But I just keep fighting and hoping that, the Palestine will be free. And but I am exhausted. I think we all feeling exhausted. And sometimes you do feel hopeless as well, but you have to.
But that's why coming here is so good, because you see all the other people who are like you.
Yeah, because sometimes you're kind of like, oh, I'm so exhausted, nothing is changing so far, and sometimes is it even worth? But I think it's even more worth to come out and and be part of this movement.
There's a lot of fear of those things going around. I'm just wondering, what if I'm too fearful? What do you think the situation? Are you fearful about any of this stuff?
Yeah, I am fearful. I think we've all become dissidents suddenly. I thought we were just speaking out for human rights, that we were trying to stop a genocide, we were upholding international law and international humanitarian humanitarian law. We know that the ICJ has said this is a plausible case for genocide. We know that they've also said that the occupation is illegal. So, and of course the ICC warrants the other week as well. So we know that this is all against the laws that have been set up since the Second World War, against this type of thing happening, against genocide ever happening again. And yet we're constantly being, as you say, doxxed, persecuted, sacked, deplatformed, shadow banned, because we're speaking out about illegal atrocities going on, which our governments are supporting, and both in the US and here in the European Union. So it's a horrible time to be alive, isn't it? To feel fearful that if you say anything, that you're somehow called a terrorist or you're branded a terrorist supporter, which is just ridiculous, and this misuse of the word anti-Semitism. I saw some ridiculous clip just yesterday with an Australian policeman rather sheepishly trying to arrest somebody because he was showing a small watermelon in his window. I mean, really, has it come to that I can't express my solidarity with oppressed people? And have we really dehumanized the Palestinians to that extent? It's just shocking.
Well, how has it personally affected you? Do you feel more determined or do you feel a little bit less inclined to come out and speak?
I'll always come out, but there are certain things that I do find myself self-censoring and being very careful about, and certainly, at work you have to be very careful about what you say in case people misunderstand it, but also things like, there's so many people who are literally on platforms and politicians saying about the Palestinians, kill them all, slaughter them all, and allowing this genocide to carry on. But yet, I've heard that people are now getting arrested, even in this country, definitely already in Germany, for wearing red triangle earrings, which has a symbolic meaning for killing members of the IDF who are aggressing in Gaza and the West Bank. So it's sort of like, it really is that thing that's free speech if you're inciting hatred against Palestinians, free speech if you want to kill all the Palestinians. It's, in fact, that's what you have to say to be acceptable and accepted. But if you express solidarity, just solidarity, or wear symbolic, earrings or watermelons, or even wear these free Palestine rubber bands on your wrist. I've had actually a member of my union say, best take them off in case somebody complains, somebody might be offended. They're offended because I want Palestine to be free. That seems extraordinary, because I want human rights law to be upheld. That's extraordinary to me. And I think we have reached a really difficult time. It's almost anarchic politically, when our governments are telling us we must not have solidarity and we must not uphold international human rights law, or we will be charged with Section 12 of the Counter-Terrorism Act. Like Richard Medhurst and Sarah Wilkinson and all these other journalists, that's the section.
The thing that bugs me a bit is Alison Pearson, the Telegraph journalist, suggesting that she's had her free speech taken away, but there's no coverage whatsoever of those people you've mentioned, Richard Medhurst, Sarah Wilkinson, Asa Winstanley, etc. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and lots of people on this demo don't even know this stuff either. I mean, people have been asked, about the censorship, and they don't know anything about it.
Really, they don't. Yeah, no, I'm watching. I'm following all of those people very, very closely, and it does really concern me.
I'm just wondering, are you worried about your career in a way if you get identified at a march or it's speaking for Palestine? So, for example, if you're filmed now, would you be worried that someone would say, oh, you can't get a job because you spoke about Palestine?
Yes, absolutely. I would be worried. It's a very concerning conditions we find ourselves in, where people and students who go out to protest genocide, to protest for the rights of human beings, to try and stop the murder of children, where these people are having their homes raided, they're getting arrested. This is free speech. This is a free country. We are supposed to be able to stand up for what is right, to be able to express ourselves. And in a world where, I am worried that if this gets out, I won't be able to find a job or have a career. That's silencing. That is fascism. That is authoritarianism. That is not what we stand for. That is not what we should see in a country that stands for democracy, that stands for humanity, that stands for rights for all. So, no, it's very wrong. It's very concerning.
Another question.
Yeah.
Can I just sorry. I just want to. Is your family supportive of what you do when you come out, or would you be would your family support what you're saying? Because sometimes families are divided on this as well. Are they divided, your family, on this?
They are, unfortunately. My family they suffer from bystander syndrome, where they're willing to look at the news and go, what's going on is sad, but it doesn't affect me. So I'm not going to stand up. I'm not going to speak out. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to help. I'm not going to do what's right. And so, for instance, at my college graduation, my university graduation, I'm sorry, I'm American, I wore a Palestinian flag as I walked across the stage, and I had my dad tell me, this is not the time for that. This is not the time for politics. You shouldn't bring that to graduation. And I simply disagree. Any time where you have visibility, where there's a large gathering, you should stand up, you should speak out, you should say, I know what is wrong, I know what is right, and I am making a stance. I am making my voice heard so that the world knows what's right, so that the Palestinians know that they're not alone, that people still care, that people will stand up and support them, that people will fight for them, and that one day Palestine will be free.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Very good to hear you.